Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Ivani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Monday, August 18th. We are eyeing geopolitical news, economic events, and retail earnings action as we start a new week. Stocks ended last week on a lackluster note. The averages ended mixed. The Dow was the day's only winner, adding 34 points or 0.08%, boosted in part to shares of UNH. The S&P 500 shed 18 points or just more than 0.25%. The Nasdaq closed off by 87 points or 0.4%. But let's get into Monday and a new week with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes. Good morning, Emily. How are you? Listen, I'm watching the S&Ps. We are trading lower. We're down 0.14%. What can I say? This is I would call this mild weakness. The market's kind of in need of a catalyst for direction. I mean, there isn't been a major positive or major negative catalyst out over the weekend, so we're seeing a flat to lower opening. The key news event over the weekend was obviously the Trump Putin summit. I mean, under Russia's plan, they would relinquish small parts of occupied Kiev, or small parts of occupied Ukraine, and Kiev would give them huge vast amounts of eastern land, which Moscow's already been unable to capture under the proposal from Vladimir Putin. So, that proposal is just not going to fly. But the Trump is having a meeting this afternoon with European leaders that includes Ukraine President Zelenskyy. So we'll see if something comes out of that. But the key is I don't expect President Trump to announce additional sanctions on Russian oil. So that's like the positive that we get out of this news event that's occurring. Jackson Hole, that economic meeting, the key economic meeting of the year, Jackson Hole event, that starts this week. Chairman Powell, he's scheduled to speak on Friday. Powell's likely to come across mildly dovish. Inflation, unemployment data has been sending mixed signals, so it's kind of hard for him to come out strongly dovish, but I do think he'll come out a little dovish. What do we see in corporate news? Dayforce, ticker DAY, David Apple Yellow, shares are higher due to takeover speculation. In terms of earnings, there's no real earnings that came out this morning, but for the week, it's a big week for retail earnings, for the retail earnings sectors, as we're going to get earnings announcements from Home Depot, Walmart, TJ Maxx, Target, Ross Stores, Lowe's, Alibaba, and Buckle. So, that's something to keep an eye on. And then you turn in your attention, over to Europe. And, for the most part, we are seeing some, mild losses in Europe this morning. I'm looking at the DAX, and the DAX is lower by 0.35% or 85 points. Autos and financial stocks are a little weak. In London, the FTSE is lower by 0.03. I mean, you can call that flat. Mining and energy stocks are showing some resilience, I would say. Financials are underperforming, though. And the CAC in Paris is down 0.73%. It's the major CAC 40 blue chip stocks that are leading that leg lower. Then you turn your attention over to Asia last night, and Asia was mostly higher. I mean, the Nikkei gained 0.77% or 336 points. Auto stocks were higher. Financial stocks did weaken. Hong Kong, the Hang Seng fell 0.37%. There was weakness in property and financial stocks, but China rose 0.85%. Basically, there's increased optimism about stimulus measures coming from the Chinese government this week to bolster economic growth, specifically in the property sector. So we'll have to wait and see. But China was up, 31 points or 0.85% overnight. And then you turn your attention, over to oil this morning, and oil is ticking higher. It's not hugely higher, but it's up about 0.4%. The WTI is at $63.10. Brent is at $66.10. The key will be the outcome of the European leaders who are discussing the potential peace efforts in the Ukraine. We'll have to see what comes out of that. I think they're coming over to the White House at around noon. They're going to be meeting in the afternoon. I believe they're going to have a dinner, but they're going to be there's going to be a press conference. I suspect they call it a photo op, but it'll be kind of an off-the-cuff press conference when those photos are being taken. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market report, Emily.
Bill, as you mentioned, your markets are looking for catalysts, some direction this morning as we start a new week. And we're seeing things like that geopolitical news and what is happening in terms of earnings and economic events, of course, other corporate headlines, watching that today and really throughout the week to look for those catalysts and anticipate any sort of market moves, as you mentioned, in sort of the positive direction with a main headline or even in the negative direction. When it comes to earnings action, there's a whole host of retail earnings due out this week, which will be interesting to watch. We're easing into Monday here when it comes to earnings reports. But Bill, let's start there. What's going on in terms of earnings action?
Sure. I mean, after the bell today, you got Palo Alto Networks, PANW, Paul, Apple, Nancy, William. EPS is 88 cents, expect to move at 7.97%. Then you get FaberNet, ticker FN, Frank Nancy. Their EPS is $2.64, expect to move at 15.93%. Little high. That EPS is just a little higher than I like. I'm a little cautious there. Um, but the put call ratio is 0.80, so that's kind of positive. Tomorrow morning you got Vikings Holdings, you got Medtronics, you got Home Depot. They're all releasing before the bell tomorrow. Those are ones to watch as well. But that's what I have for you in terms of an earnings update, Emily.
Bill, those will be interesting to watch, sort of gauging, consumer health and sort of the bigger picture and what's going on in the economy with those retail earnings releases. You'll be following all of that using your earnings alert on your NewsWare. And we're also easing into the week when it comes to economic events, but that Jackson Hole Summit does start today, and we'll be getting, a press conference from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell by the end of the week. But Monday morning is starting off slow. But what is going on in terms of the day's economic events?
Well, at 10 a.m. this morning, we'll get the housing market index. That's kind of the big one. But for the week, there's a lot of housing data. You also get building permits and existing home sales that are coming out this morning. And I think that there's the S&P readings are also due out this week. But the key event is, really going to be the Jackson Hole meeting. That's what the attention is going to be. And, that starts later this week, but we'll be talking about Jackson Hole, that economic symposium all week long, Emily. But that's what I have for you in terms of an economic update.
And we'll be following any news coming out of that right here on NewsWare's Trade Talk, gathering that information using NewsWare and our economic alerts. So we'll be sharing any updates every morning. When it comes to updates, we also follow a whole host of other types of news, data, and information. Bill, you use your NewsWare to break it down into alerts in buckets like things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls. You're looking at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So, Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 8 higher, 2 unchanged, 20 lower. The big gainer, is really UNH, which is still seeing some, strong performance. After it was told that Warren Buffett took a position last week. In terms of the FANG stocks, Google's showing little gains, but everything else is trading a little lower. In terms of news behind the tape, like Amazon, the EU Digital Service Act, that's a key focus of this U.S.-EU trade negotiations because they just keep finding, U.S. tech companies. And that's going to be an issue in these, that's a source of revenue for them. And it's going to be, part of these discussions, and hey, it should be. Google, ticker GOOG, they announced an agreement on a $55 million fine for anti-competitive deals in Australia. Meta is expected to release these Hypernova glasses next month. I think they go on sale for like $800. Tesla, hey, the UK sales slump that they're seeing. I mean, Tesla's cutting their fees in the UK by their lease fees to lease a Tesla by almost 50%. Ooh, that's ugly. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, we're talking Merck. FDA gave Merck and gave them breakthrough therapy designation for one of their new drug stocks. If you look at shares of Merck, they're trading higher by 0.4%. Microsoft, it's really OpenAI employees. I mean, they agreed to sell 6 billion shares to SoftBank, Thrive Capital, and Dragoneer. I mean, that's really, what's helping Microsoft, push a little higher this morning. terms of merger news, we got to talk about DAY, David Apple Yellow. That's Dayforce. Stocks moving higher this morning because buyout firm Thomas Bravo is said to be in talks to buy out the human resource software company DAY, David Apple Yellow. In terms of guidance news, Air Canada, ticker AC, Air Canada suspended its Q3 forecast due to labor disruptions. In terms of buyback news, GCT, Grace Charlie Tom, GigaCloud, they announced 111 million share repurchasing program. In terms of catalyst calls, MDB, Michael David Boyd, Citibank adds MongoDB to its positive catalyst watch, and they also raised the price target as well. But that's what I have for in terms of morning news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to start this week?
I'm going to go with Home Depot, HD, Henry David. Earnings are out tomorrow morning. EPS is $4.71. Expected move is 3.91%. You look at Friday's call volume, 17,928 calls traded against 13,995 puts. That's positive. Open interest, 104K to 82K, also positive. Major brokers remain positive on the stock. They're leaning positive. Who doesn't like Home Depot? It's a great little stock. The entry price is key here. I mean, stocks trading 398.24 to 399.30. I'm looking for an entry price, 395.50. 395.50. That's my entry price. Because I think if it hits, because I do think it can weaken. I mean, the market looks like it's going to open up a little weaker, and there's always cautious around Home Depot. So I wouldn't. I mean, my price target of 395.50 just feels right. I don't want to hold it into earnings because it doesn't always react well, even when the earnings are strong. But we'll have to wait and see if I do that or not. But my price target for Home Depot, ticker HD,